Only in silence the word, only in dark the light, only in dying life. Speak to us, God, your life-giving word.
Hi, friends. I'm Mother Sylvia at St. Mark's, and I'm here again with our friend from church, Mr. John, who's going to read us another story for the 40 days. So get comfortable, take some deep breaths, get your heart and mind and body ready for a story.
Only in silence the word, only in dark the light, only in dying life. Speak to us, God, your life-giving word. Only in silence the word, only in dark the light, only in dying life. Speak to us, God, your life-giving word.
All right. Mr. John, will you tell us this story?
Crossing the Red Sea. Moses did go back to the land of Egypt. He went right up to the palace of the Pharaoh and said, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." The Pharaoh said, "What? Who are you? And who is this God of Israel? I do not know this God of Israel, and even if I did, I would not let these slaves go." The Pharaoh was angry. He decided to punish the Hebrew slaves. He would no longer allow the taskmasters to supply the slaves with straw to make bricks. From now on, the Pharaoh ordered the slaves would have to gather their own straw for their bricks. But the Pharaoh warned, each slave has to make just as many bricks as before. They are lazy. If they have more work to do, they will forget this nonsense about freedom. So life for the Hebrew slaves grew worse and worse. Because the Pharaoh paid no attention to Moses, God sent something he could not ignore. God sent terrible plagues on the land of Egypt. There were 10 plagues in all, each more horrible than the last. Frogs and mosquitoes and locusts swarmed upon the land. Hail hammered the crops into the ground. Livestock died. The people of Egypt, covered with boils, wished to die. The sun refused to shine. All of this because God so wanted the slaves to be free. But no one could imagine what it would be to take to bend the Pharaoh's stiff neck. Then one long night, the angel of death hovered over Egypt, killing the firstborn of every family, both human and animal. The sound of weeping filled the air. The Hebrews listened to the wails and knew the terrible price of their freedom. God had told them to kill a lamb and mark their doors with the blood of the lamb. The angel of death saw the blood and passed over the houses of the Hebrews. That night, while the Egyptians mourned, the Hebrews followed Moses out of slavery, out of Egypt, and into the wilderness. When the Pharaoh, who was crying for his own dead child, realized that the Hebrews had fled, he was angry. He decided there would be more deaths that day if that's what it took to recapture the Hebrew slaves. The Pharaoh sent the army after the Hebrews. Now the soldiers were in chariots pulled by swift horses. The Hebrews were on foot. Before too long, the soldiers caught up with the Hebrews on the banks of the Red Sea. The Hebrews were trapped. Armed soldiers stood behind them. The sea lay before them. They had neither weapons to fight the soldiers nor boats to sail the sea. God told the Hebrews, "March on." God told Moses to raise his walking stick and stretch his hand out over the water. Moses and his followers must have wondered how a raised stick and an outreached hand were going to make a way through the deep waters. But when Moses did as God instructed, the waters of the sea parted and made high walls on either side of a dry path. The Hebrews walked through the sea. Then the Egyptian soldiers gave chase, following the Hebrews into the sea. The walls of water flowed in on the soldiers and they drowned. Soldiers and horses, they all drowned in the sea. Then Moses' sister Miriam picked up a tambourine and the people began to dance. They sang, "The Lord is my strength, the Lord who saves me. This is the God I praise, the God of my ancestor."
Wow. Thank you for that story and thank you for that song. Sometimes in Godly Play, when we hear a story, we ask questions like, I wonder what part of that story you think is most important. There are so many parts in that story, and some of them are so sad and scary, and some of them are happy. But what seems most important to me today is to remember that anytime someone is celebrating, someone else somewhere is really sad. And so for me, it feels important to remember that when I'm celebrating and rejoicing, to not forget the people who might be sad. Think about this story, talk about it with your family this week. I wonder what part you think is the most important part of this story. I wonder what part is your favorite. I wonder where you are in the story or what part of it is especially for you. And I can't help but wonder if there's something we could leave out of this story and still have everything we need. Talk about it with your family, and the next time we're at church together, find me or find Mr. John and tell us what you think about this story.